Hi, this is Alexplain. RGM-79 GM Gundam mass production Gundam model General Mobile Suit is the Earth Federation standard model of mobile suit in the One-Year War. While usually portrayed as the red shirts of the Federation, they are the mainline mobile suit and they effectively won the One-Year War for the Federation. And the ball, but we'll talk about the ball with those in hand. While RX-78 and RX-79 manages to outmatch Zeon's mobile suits, they are very expensive to produce, mainly because of their lunar titanium or Gundamian alpha armor. So the first thing to do is to replace those with titanium ceramic armor. While titanium ceramic armor is nowhere as good as lunar titanium, it is lighter and has better beam weapon resistance than super hard steel that Zeon uses. Since the Federation predicts that Zeon would deploy their own portable beam weapons, if not hoping it would increase survivability against Zeon ships with mega beam cannons. Core Fighter is also a complex machine to make and maintain, so that has to go too. Well, RX-79 already did. But the core block system remains because it helps with repair and maintenance. There are other details as we go through the GM from head to toe, and the result is that the cost of a single Gundam would be enough to pay for 20 RG-79 GMs. GM does retain a similar silhouette to the RX-78 Gundam, but the armor segments have been greatly simplified, even on a G-frame where they are very embossed. Most notably the skirt and the lower legs. The number of RPG and auxiliary thruster have been greatly reduced as well, practically down to the bare necessity. Another significantly simplified part is the head. While the head is very much gun cannon-like, it is replaced with a much more basic optic sensor matrix, thus requiring a much bigger visor to see. But even so, it is only effective at typical mobile suit combat range. The one place where Federation didn't chip out with GM is the backpack. It is very much the same design as the RX-78, other than the armor being titanium ceramic. The beam saber is the same model as well, except he is only one of them. The empty side can be installed with a weapon rack, if the GM team is lucky to have a heavier weapon like a hyper bazooka, or restored with a second beam saber for officers, like Badge of Office or backup weapon instead of trying to get them to dual-wield beam sabers. Head Falcons get more ammo storage thanks to the simplification of the sensor arrays, one of the few places where GM got improvement over the RX-78. Another place that Federation did not completely chip out on is the shield. It is not made out of lunar titanium for obvious reasons, but other layers are made in the same specifications. They probably figured some cheap alternative after they built the RX-78 shield. And anti-beam coating have been applied since these shields are considered semi-consumables. The result is a shield not as tough against conventional weapons, but would be relatively effective against a couple of beam shots before GM can close in and finish the job. Where Federation completely chip out, besides from armor and core fighter, is the beam spray gun. While that's a little bit harsh, the beam spray gun does save Federation a lot of production costs, and it would come back from time to time due to its quirks. But let's talk about how it saves big dough. Beam spray gun is pretty much a beam rifle with a very short barrel. Like conventional firearms, in general a longer barrel gives you more muzzle facility and accuracy. While barrels for conventional firearms are generally costly due to a high mechanical accuracy requirement, beam weapon barrels also needed to include relatively complex construction for particle acceleration. So minimizing the barrel would save a lot of money. Now with relatively low muzzle velocity and accuracy, the beam spray gun made up for its shortcomings by having more shots and higher rate of fire, spraying their target to find their mark, at the expense of beam volume, which is to say, while a single beam rifle bolt can easily penetrate multiple Zeon mobile suits at once, beam spray gun bolts usually just go halfway, with relatively short effective range. However, the beam spray gun is not a standalone weapon. It is a modular weapon, which can be built into different configurations, like a carbine called beam gun or even a sniper rifle called beam sniper rifle. So experienced pilots would use output setting for those configurations to generate a larger blow against opponent with heavy armor or shield, or shotgun effect for enclosed spaces. Replacement of the beam spray guns occur as soon as GM begin to roll out. Some got upgraded to beam guns, few luckily or decorated units get beam rifles, but majority of them got the 90mm SMG, which we will talk in details with one in hand as usual. But a lot of GM pilots still bring their beam spray gun because it is small and handy with a bit more reach than their beam saber. Most beam spray guns being made during 1 year war do not have an optic like the beam rifle as cost saving, but a few of them do, and those made after the war usually do too. After a rundown of GM's design and weapon loadout, you wonder how could have GM won the 1 year war for the Federation. The Federation had very little mobile suit design and combat experiences. How would such a drastic simplification and cost reduction not end in disaster? It all comes back to machine learning AI on board of the RX-78 Gundam. While the high-spec optical computer and machine learning AI is not installed on the GM, their results are shared to the GM development team. With those information, they developed the simplified OS for piloting the GM. Since GM's design is based on the RX-78 Gundam, so the physicality would be very similar. Not only does greatly reduce time to train GM pilots, this also means some more complex maneuver that RX-78 Gundam had learned to perform can be performed by GM as well. While this means GM wouldn't be able to learn its way to individual pilots, performing complex maneuvers and self-optimization, these can be done by the mechanics at home base with their own operation records. Knowing how RX-78 have fought and moved also informed the GM development team what part is more important than the others, so they know which corners to cut and where to anchor. And with the knowledge on how to optimize the RX-78 in different environments, the GM development team can work out the configuration for GM that would be useful for most environments and expected ranges of adjustment that frontline would need. While the Federation had a big army, they didn't have more mobile suits. The total number of Zaku 2 produced alone is more than the combination of all GM variants produced. Federation won the war because whenever they have a GM, it is a GM they can use to fight. Oh, and because of superior logistic fleet and the ball, but they will get their video. While the baseline RGM-79 was deemed insufficient by the end of the 1 year war when Zeon introduced the Jugok, Federation had already won the war. GM have been continuously upgraded for following decade like the GM Quell we had looked at the other day. Even after the introduction of Jagan, the GM3, still having some remnant of the baseline GM, would serve alongside them until somewhere around UC100. And that's without mentioning how Jagan and its Federation standard mobile suit successor still use the RGM prefix. GM, like the Federation, might not be the best option, but it is always there. Thanks for watching.